if I can get this vlogging thing right. Hello, 안녕하세요. ¿Cómo está? This is Lucifer and day one of my quarantine in South Korea. I'm going to do like a recap of the whole process, like when I was flying and like this, as much as I can recall of the step-by-step process. It was like all the paperwork that I had to file and what you do before you get there, of like what you need to prepare for, all the documents you need to get in order and all that stuff, particularly for a short-term stay. So I'm gonna go without another video, but my brain has been wrapped and tired for the past several months, honestly. Been working to get to this point for the better part of 3 years, and it's finally happened. So I'm just kind of taking it all in and allowing my brain to settle. So I'm going to share my breakfast with you. Because the group of us that came in to the hotel that was picked for us, because we came in pretty late, they didn't have necessarily a dinner prepared for us, so got like a little care package from Emart24. Those videos more just like more about a rambling thing. Kind of some random thoughts to recap, not just 2021 but also 2020. Some food. If I can get this open. I forgot to mention, so when you get here, they can give you the option of the type of breakfast that you want. I think it's Korean. Like if you have any dietary restrictions, you can do like vegetarian, Korean, and there's one other option. I forgot to mention that I wanted the vegetarian option. So they just defaulted. I think they defaulted to the Korean option for me. So I forgot to. I was really tired last night. I was so tired. I stayed overnight at SeaTac, because that's where I flew in from. I just did it non-stop, so there was no stopovers for me, because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to deal with the possibility of like having the gate switched or possibly losing my luggage. I just wanted to go from one destination straight to Incheon. So I was like, I'll deal with it. Because either way, I'm gonna have to deal with that 12-hour flight regardless. But because of where we were in Washington, there was the snow that was happening the whole week, so I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't have any issues with the weather trying to get there, because I didn't want to like pay upwards of $100 just to get to the airport. So I just went the day before by bus, because they were just kind of like, who gives a fuck, you don't have to worry about paying, because the bus fare was free for New Year's Eve anyway, so they're just like, you don't really care. It's fine. And I just stayed overnight and got my bags checked and then just chilled in baggage claim until it was time to go through security check and all that stuff. And as far as it goes, it may not seem ideal, but I've been stranded at SeaTac for 7 and 9 days at a time, so doing it overnight, it's just like SeaTac on easy mode. Like both times I've been doing the height of the pandemic, so it was just meh. Alright, so let's see, what have we got here?
상황실에서 알려드립니다. It must be submitted for your health. Thank you. 在自我诊断 APP 上，例如发烧、咳嗽等症状。セルフチェックアプリを起動し、毎日の健康状態をアプリ内へ記録していただきますようお願い申し上げます。환기시 절대 방문은 열지 않도록 주의해 주시기 바랍니다. 또한 방역을 위해서 문을 항상 닫아주시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다. Please remember to keep doors closed when ventilating to prevent viruses and other kinds of diseases from spreading. Thank you for your cooperation. 换空气的时候，千万不要打开房间门。请注意，在通风期间，不要打开房间门。客室の換気を行っていただきますようお願いいたします。また、客室の換気の際、This is a non-smoking facility. If you smoke, fines may apply. 当施設は全施設禁煙となっております。当規則への違反が発覚した際には罰則が課されますので。
Glad that they did that announcement because I thought I submitted my self-diagnosis thing. Actually forgot. I was supposed to do that daily. So let me cut the recording real quick and go do that and I'll be back. Alright, so I took the I filled out the self-diagnosis, did a questionnaire thing, so good to go. I think I need to do that one more time, like day and night, correctly, but I'm good to go, so now I can eat. Yay. I'm hungry. So let's see, stuck in here, let's see what we have. Looks like we got Kxng Akuma, so it's mushroom soup, so I can make that in a little cup that I have in an electric kettle and put in the bathroom because it just didn't reach the I have it on the nightstand, the little cord just wasn't quite long enough, so I just put it in the bathroom with easy access to the water. So, and we have I'm going to do a room tour later when I'm feeling more up to it, so I can see where everything is and check out the window and all that stuff. So just put that in a cup of the kettle later, and then it's just wipes. This is basket wipes. Yeah, one pack, and then some hand drip coffee. Oh, that's nice. So Tom's Ethiopia hand drip coffee. So we got this. And I didn't show this, but yeah, that's the little thing and a little. Yay! I don't have a microwave, so I'm going to be eating my lunch cold. Oh, and there's my little. I'm just gonna eat this. I just have the liquid later, but I like the broth, so I'll eat it. I'll mix it in with some hot water later, and I can just eat it hot. Alright, so let's see what we have here. So it looks like, so again, I forgot to ask for vegetarians, so it's gonna have meat in it, but that's, yeah, can't do anything about that now, so it's okay. So it looks like we have jalapenos, and looks like a bit of ham, and some sausage. I think it's just like a little cut up hot dogs. So I'm pretty sure that they get them from at the corner marts. Like I said, the last little package where they got the tin ramen from was from the E-Mart 24, and got a few 7-Elevens running around, and there's like a CU too. not CU too, but there's CU as well. So pretty sure that's where they get these from. Possibly, don't quote me on that. But I've got a little rice bowl here with some, it looks like garlic bread, and then some eggs, some scrambled eggs, scrambled, and then that's a plum. I'll find out when I eat it. And there's a little sliced tomato and a strawberry, and then for like a little dessert there is a cake and looks like some strawberry jam. So it's the breakfast. I don't seem super enthusiastic, it's just because I'm still really tired. I just, even especially in the last week or so, I just haven't really gotten a lot of sleep because my body has just been out of whack. My normal sleeping schedule is I go to bed at around between like 1 and 3 a.m. and I normally wake up between 7 and 9 a.m. and then I get up around like 10 because I spend like an hour getting my brain ready and replying messages or answer messages or sorting my emails and stuff like that. And then when I'm ready to like actually wake up for the day, then I'll get up like around like 9:30, or if I'm really just not feeling it, I'll get up around 11. So that's like on my freelancer schedule. But the past few months I had been to like really help me like boost my goals so I could make it to Korea on the date that I wanted to. I wanted to leave before the end of 2021 because originally I had the goal of leaving last winter, like around was it February or like late February, early March. So in 2020, but you know, when the panini started up and everything got shut down, I literally could not leave, couldn't even apply for passport because, you know, there's nothing you could do about it. So plans switched, and then a lot of other things sparked up. I got taken advantage of financially at the beginning of the year with someone I was trying to help, or two someones I should say. There's nothing I could do about that. They also kind of stole a bit of my property, but it wasn't really worth anything per se. So it's just like, these are easily replaceable. So that's not the big deal. I had to cut that out pretty quickly. And then there's the whole thing of cutting out an entire chunk of my life. So that whole thing where I was like processing that and processing all of 2020 and 2019. I didn't really get to process what happened in 2019 because it was a lot going on for me then, because that was the year that I officially made the transition to being a freelancer full time, and I was also made the commitment to traveling while doing my work as well, and that was pre-COVID, and then it's kind of that weird thing where once you decide to kind of essentially, it's been a process for me where I don't really talk about this often outside of who I know in my personal life, at least who's in it, because my personal life, and I like to keep it that way. When I was kind of ranting and raving on Twitter at one point, because I kind of didn't really have anywhere else to rant about it before. But after the death of a friend in 2016, and then my own kind of spiral around that same time, I made the choice of I can't do this anymore. I can't keep going the way that I've been going, because if I do, then it's just it's going to be game over for me. I made the choice to be like, I need to turn my life around, and I made a promise to that friend and to myself around that same year that I was going to do the things that I always wanted to do, and nothing was going to stop me. And once I made that decision, once I started kind of working on my mental health and reconnecting with my spirituality and reconnecting with the dreams that I had as a kid, I always wanted to pursue a career in anything artistic or just anything creative in general. And I wanted to do stuff with art and do stuff with music, and I wanted to use the skills that I had in those two areas to help others. That's all I ever wanted to do when I was a kid. And I wanted to travel as well. That's all I ever wanted to do ever since I was a child. Once I decided that I was going to do that, and I was going to do it my way, and I wasn't going to compromise how I was going to get there. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I was. And once things started happening for me, it's been a hard process, I'm not going to lie, and there have been a lot of missteps for me, even to the point where, you know, the kind of typical thing where a lot of times you don't have anything to eat for days on end, or me being stranded at bus stations for 14 hours, me almost having to hide in an elevator from coyotes overnight because, you know, a train didn't show up when it was supposed to. I had to call a friend until I was able to call a friend and able to get myself out of there, with the help, of course. Or, you know, up to a point where during the middle of the pandemic, where I had no choice but to sleep outside with my suitcases because I had nowhere to go, because things took a nosedive for like a week. There's nothing you can do. It happened. And there's also been really, really good moments where, you know, I've stayed like in super fancy hotels, living the high life, you know, paying for things based off of my work, you know, starting to build a clientele and all that stuff, and doing it the way that I always wanted to do it. And, you know, again, I had to, you know, it's not like I just started out of nowhere. It's not like I started being successful. The first 2 years of any business are going to be rocky, and that's why a lot of the time the first 2 years of any business end up being failures, because it's hard. But if you stick through it, it's usually the third year, and I'm entering my third year now. If you can stick with it, even if you have to like kind of start over from where you were, start from scratch, if you keep at it, the third year is when you finally start getting your shit together and you start figuring out what you need to do. And that's what I've done. But getting back to it, before I know I said I was going to eat, but also this was supposed to be like a rambling video. So when I made the decision to do what I wanted to do with my career and with my life, and to kind of take back myself, a lot of people that said that they would be there for me, and this is my story is not unique. This happens to a lot of people. This has happened to a lot of mutual artist friends as well. I've seen it time and time again. You will hear the story time and time again. As soon as someone decides that they want to take charge of their life, and as soon as those positive changes start happening and the people in their lives see it, the people that you think will be there for you and who have always said that they will be there for you and support you, end up not being those people, because either they were secretly envious of you, or because they saw your success and your happiness happening through their particular vision and their particular route. And when you tell them repeatedly, no, this is not how I wanted to do it, this is how I know it will work for me, and also there's a myriad of other things, don't get through oftentimes that's where the chaos springs up, and that's where the conflict comes in, and that's where I was having a lot of my trouble. I guess I could say 2 years. Honestly, 2020 and 2021 have felt like just one big long year to me. And many times I was wondering what I would, if coming to Korea, if my goal of coming to Korea, just for a few months to kind of reset and kind of unscramble my brain, like I've always wanted to. I worked for this for 3 years, and for 3 years I've run into obstacle after obstacle. Kind of just, it seemed like it was coming out of nowhere, and it's like, why? It's like, not even considering the pandemic, there's nothing anyone can do about that. I'm talking about like personal things in my life, where it seemed like I'm getting hit by a car and dealing with narcissistic family members and dealing with spiritual leeches who took advantage of me financially. All this other stuff is just like, but all I want to do is just go to Korea for a few months just to reset and kind of just like draw some pictures and learn about a different culture, and why there was many times I questioned, like, why does it seem like no one wants me to be happy? No one in my life wants me to be happy. When they said that they did, I'm paving the way for my success. Why is it that the people that they said they wanted this for me, why is it suddenly they're doing everything that they can, it seems, to ruin it for me? And then when I realized that when it finally it clicks in your brain, or if you kind of know it underlying, but it finally like hits you that it doesn't have anything to do with you. It never did. It has everything to do with their past trauma, or their reflections of themselves, their own insecurities, the things that they never learned to deal with. When it finally like clicks in your own brain, that's when you can let it all go and you can separate yourself from it. Sometimes literally, if that's what you have to do. And that's what I did this year with a lot of people. That's what I needed to do to gain peace. And because of that, I'm here now, day 1 in quarantine. Why do you keep forgetting about my food? I mean, I had it in the fridge. It's not going anywhere. It's gonna be cold. Okay. Oh, this is the grape. I was wondering about this earlier. Like what it was. So it's a grape. Oh, I forgot to clean my chopsticks. So I have chopsticks and like I have metal eating utensils and stuff. I forgot to. I was too tired to clean my utensils before I left, so I was going to clean them here. I need to do that before I forget. Yeah, there's garlic bread. It's crispy. It's kind of sweet actually. Oh, tomato paste. So I thought it was strawberry sauce. No, it's tomato paste. So I'm gonna use that. Cool. Yep. Okay, this is marble cake. I mean, it's kind of obvious looking at it. Reminds me of Totoro. Totoro's back. The little stripes. I think yeah, it's Totoro, right? With the little stripes on his back. I will say that in spite of the challenges, or actually because of the challenges, Yeah, and I'm not the first person to say this. A lot of people can say this, that what I've gone through personally, at least this year and last year, helped me to really see who was willing to stick around and who was willing to truly be there for me when I really needed them. And that is a most invaluable experience and lesson to learn. Especially when you're going through something like that and you have to let a lot of people go. Even some people where you didn't want to let them go, but you had to because you knew that the other people that were not good for you would use them to try to get to you if you kept them in your life. So the only option was to cut them out. So that was, that being painful, it makes you feel alone in a way when you're dealing with all these things and you're trying to keep your balance, and if you've been knocked back in your goals, to not even plow ahead but just to get back to where you were. It helps to know once you get back on your feet and brush yourself off and all the dust and rubble settles, to know who was truly there to support you, even if you don't see each other every day, even if you don't get to talk to each other every day, even if sometimes frustration pops up. You all have your personal trials that you're dealing with, and you're all just trying to keep your head above water. It's really comforting to know that the few people who stick around are the few people who are most likely going to stick around, if not for the rest of your life, then at least for a very long time. And like I say, I'm very grateful for that. Okay, let me see. These jalapenos are about. Right, got a bit of kick to them. I don't eat jalapenos every day with my meals, just sometimes if I'm in the mood, if I want to get my bowels going. Okay, it appears I'm in the mood for jalapenos, but my mouth is not. Sometimes, too, that's frustrating, where I want to eat them, but my body is not physiologically ready for them. So it's just like, come on, it's not that bad today. And so I might ask the question where it's like, if you're vegan or vegetarian, there's meat in the dish that they gave you, why not just skip the dish? Because I am the type where if it's given to me, I don't like to waste the food, because then the animal stuff is just in vain. And that is something that I don't like. So if it's given to me, then I will eat it, because then it's like, at least your death wasn't wasted in this instance. When I go shopping for myself, or when I order food for myself, I order vegan, or if vegan is not available, then I order vegetarian. Okay, now I think my body's ready. There we go. I really like this. This bread is sweet. A funny thing that happened last night was that so what they do when you first get into the hotel is that they will take your temperature. So they take temperature twice when you enter into quarantine for the room. They take it once when the first night you get here, and then they take it again right before you leave, just to make sure everything's, okay. And so the way that they do it is that they do a nose swab and then a throat swab. So when I did a short stint at Amazon back in 2020, I would periodically get tests for the nose swab, just to make sure. It's like, because I, could be asymptomatic, you never know. So I just wanted to be on the up and up. So the nose swabs are like no big deal for me. And but sometimes, you can do them yourself, or sometimes they have people, they'll have the technicians do it for you, or the nurses do it for you. And depending on who you get, they will either not do it so deep, or they will go so far back it feels like you're being prepped for mummification. Like they're trying to scoop your brain out. And this time around, it was the latter. But that doesn't bug me. Like, I can handle that. In fact, I didn't even realize how far the technician went back until she was pulling it out again. I'm like, oh, that actually went far back there. So that is fine. The thing about throat swabs is that I have a horrible gag reflex. So no matter what, it's like, you don't even have to go that far back, and I will every single time. And so I know a lot of people are terrified of the nose probes for the swabs because of how far back it can go, and it's not necessarily a pleasant feeling. I get it, but it's just like, I would take the nose swab any day. Go ahead and prep me. Prep me for the mummification process. Skip my brain out all you want. I would take that any single day, as long as you don't fucking deep throat me with the goddamn cotton ball. I would take that any single day of the week for a COVID test or a throat swab, because I don't know why. I cannot, even if I do the thing, or a trick that I normally would do for, like, when I brush my teeth and I do tongue scrubbing, is that I will smile, because that suppresses my gag reflex. But even that's not a guarantee, because my gag reflex is so just such a brat. It doesn't want to play nice. I need a tomato. I need a tomato sauce. A little takoki. Here, I'm gonna eat that last. Put it with the marble cake. Another thing that's really funny is that I know a lot of people, quarantine isn't a pleasant experience. Sometimes it's really just experience, because, like, if you're claustrophobic, or if you just don't like being stuck in a room for, before it was 14 days, now it's 10. It could just be like you're even up to a miserable experience. Funny thing about me, sometimes I feel like I'm an anomaly, because the whole time I've been prepping and just getting ready, especially the past few weeks or so, I've just been like, I get to be in a room by myself, just chilling, watching movies, drawing. I'm gonna stream some Skyrim later, taking, like, quiet showers and baths, eating food, looking out the window for 10 days. I can do that for 10 days. I don't have to go anywhere for 10 days. I get to relax for 10 days. Like, this is actually like a vacation for me. That's what it feels. A 10-day vacation where I get to just be in a room. These days are more of an ambivert, because I like to, especially because I like to travel. I like to talk with people more often than not these days, and especially when, pre-pandemic, I got to go to my first concert in what had been years, kind of hang out, talk to people, and I was staying in hostels for, like, the first time, because normally I would stay in hotels, but I wanted to change up the experience, go stay in hostels and chat with people. And when you're hostels, you get a global experience. Got me up there and got me traveling, having fun. Since the pandemic started, I've kind of been switching more back into my introverted side. And so, like, I've been excited to just, like, stay in a room, because the whole time, actually, from the pandemic, I actually haven't really been by myself, because during the pandemic, I was traveling when the pandemic hit, and so I was the first 3 months when Washington went into lockdown, because for the American states, Washington was ground zero, and so that's where I was. And then Seattle went into lockdown, and so I was in an Airbnb for the first 3 months. So I wasn't really going anywhere, and I was only leaving the place if I needed to go get food. Literally, that was it. What I needed, unless I was going down the street to go to the grocery store to get food, I was not leaving the room. And there were other people there, so I didn't really have any space to myself at the time. And then that situation just got kind of couldn't really stay there anymore. So I was just like, either was staying in other Airbnbs, or at the time I was staying with people I knew. So it was like I was always with someone else. So what I'm trying to say is, it's been a while since I've been in a hotel room for like an extended period of time, kind of on my own. So I'm not gonna lie, my introverted side's coming out, and I'm kind of like, yay! I've had a lot of egg in the past week. So part of the reason I'm vegetarian, not vegetarian, I'm vegan, is so I started transitioning towards veganism. So I went vegetarian around age 14. I hadn't always been consistent, because sometimes, especially for like economic reasons, you can't always be consistent with it, because money, that done. But for age 14 is when I first switched over to vegetarianism, and then throughout my life I kind of switched between vegetarian and veganism, and then started really more so being vegan, especially when I realized that I actually was lactose intolerant. Can't really do dairy at all. Like, if I do, I have to be really, really careful with it. I cannot process it very well at all. And then with eggs, I had to stop eating eggs for the most part in the past maybe 2 or 3 years, because it used to be like I could eat eggs for a maximum of 2 months before I would run throwing up to the nearest sink or the toilet, because my body was physically rejecting the eggs. Like, I had developed like an egg allergy. I physically could not eat it, and now I have to be even more careful, because if I eat too many eggs within a 2-week time period, the same thing will happen. I will literally throw the eggs back up, because my body cannot handle eating eggs anymore. And the past week, I kind of had a fair amount of eggs, so I have to be careful with the amount of eggs that I consume. It will be like, I will get nauseated, and then like, oh god, it's happening. Like, it's not pleasant at all, so I've got to be careful. So now I'm gonna do the rice bowl. So I'm here for 3 months. More or less, we'll just shy 3 months. But I only packed my messenger bag, a carry-on, and then like a 28-inch suitcase, because I just didn't want to bother with a bunch of oversized luggage. I really didn't. So I didn't pack any really extra things. Like, if I need it, I can just get it when I'm over here. I don't want to be tied down with a bunch of stuff. That's always been my thing, because I have been traveling since 2019. Like, that was always a thing that I wanted to do as a kid too. Like, I always thought, like, what if I just gave up everything I owned and lived out of a suitcase and just traveled? And it was really funny. I didn't realize that that's what I ended up doing until in 2019 that I was doing it. Like, I gave up all the stuff I didn't need in 2019 and just started traveling, and was working while I was traveling up and down the west coast of the American states. In a way that's been so freeing. It's been difficult, so bloody difficult, especially while I was, figuring stuff out, figuring out how to navigate the world in a completely new way, going from being sedentary to being what I call a nomadic artist, going from place to place, learning a new way to look at and operate within the world, at least within that section of the world. It's been fun. It's been really, really fun. Now I want to kind of transition out of that a bit, especially with how the global situation is right now. It's kind of hard to travel, and wanting to keep that in mind. And it's not really feasible right now, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna transition out that a little bit. But as hard as it's been really, like, I wouldn't trade my experiences of the past couple of years for anything, because the people that I've met, the sights that I've seen, the things that I've learned, and the ways that I've grown have been invaluable. Getting a little sun peeking through the my window. A really pretty cool view. So we're in Myeongdong right now. After I get out of quarantine, I'm actually gonna be staying in Gangnam-gu, because that's where my hotel is, and it's O'Cloud Gangnam. I really, really liked it. I liked the room, and also there's a 7-Eleven like right down the way from it, and it's really close to a couple of train stations, so that's why I picked it. It's calling to me. I originally wanted to stay in Hongdae, but because the way that it kind of reminded me, the way I like to kind of describe Hongdae, like with its late night food, and it's 노래방들, and it's live performances, and kind of the whole vibe that it has. It kind of reminds me of like Shinjuku, where that kind of caters to like artists and young people, and like the whole nightlife, and like me, it's perfect. I'm like, oh cool, I'm a night owl. I would love to go. I'm like, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to stay. I want to stay in Hongdae. But then for some reason, something was calling me to stay in Gangnam, so I ended up finding a place that I liked, and so that's what I booked. Get a sip of my cold broth. I like cold broth, honestly. See, I don't okay. I need an excuse to talk about the trash tomorrow morning, because I didn't have anything to put out. And when they collect the trash daily, I thought it was 8 p.m, but I guess I do it every morning because we had the announcement this morning. I was going to say something, I lost my thought. The ADHD just went boop, 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 boop. It's a funny thing, like this whole experience for me with coming to Korea is that people would ask me why did I want to come here, especially like early in 2018. I told them, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what drew me to this place. When I was younger, I'd give an answer for Japan, and I still have my reasons for wanting to go to Japan. But with Korea, when people would ask me, I honestly couldn't give them an answer. It's just like I felt pulled here, and it felt right. People wanted an illogical answer. Honestly, I could not give them that. I'm not one to necessarily do things without at least having an outline. I'm the type that does like to jump in impulsively sometimes, but it's like, okay, I want to do this, yeah, I'm going to do it. But then I come up with at least a half-ass of a plan afterwards. I'm just going to go skydiving at the last second and not at least check that there's a parachute right before I jump. Like this whole time, it's felt like the right thing to do. And oftentimes, if something feels like the right thing to do for me, and I just trust my gut. Because any time that I've denied myself what I wanted to do, or denied myself something that felt right, and it ended up suffering for it. So this time around, if I delayed it, I should say as well, if I delayed what I wanted, I also suffered for it. So this time around, I didn't deny myself. I may have delayed it for one reason or another, but eventually I finally got myself in gear and told myself, if this is what you want, you need to just go for it. I have things on my list that I want to get done, certainly, but I don't feel a sense of urgency or anxiety like I would in the past. I feel like now that I'm here right now, just this strange feeling of everything's okay all of a sudden. Like I'm far from where I want to be with my goals and ambitions and where I want to be in life. Because in a way, I'm playing catch up for the past few decades. I'm playing a lot of catch up, but not catch up, but I feel like a weight in a way has somehow been lifted. I think I'm still just kind of processing that. It was like taking me forever to eat this, but I don't have to rush when I eat my food, because then I can't really enjoy my food when I eat it. I rush my food and it feels like I didn't really taste it, and then I find myself wanting to eat more food. Just to like experience more food. So I find that if I take my time to sit down and eat and not rush through my food, then I actually taste it and then I feel more satisfied and I feel full. I don't feel really the need to eat more. That's another thing I worked on a lot over the past few years, was like my relationship with food. Because a lot of people can look at me now and think I've generally been the same weight that I currently am. That hasn't always been the case. Yes, I was more on the thinner side throughout most of my life, but when I got on medication and all that stuff, for, one reason or another, then I gained weight, and that didn't, contribute to my mental health, because then I got depressed over it. And it wasn't really the weight itself, because I've never really been the type to really care about actually gaining physical weight. It was looking in the mirror and seeing the physical manifestation of all the choices and the mental strain that had accumulated within me over the years in front of me. That is what more or less distressed me, because if I, in a healthier mental state, if I gain weight, then I was just like, okay, go and buy new clothes. Because, even now I wear oversized clothing because I just like to be comfortable. The clothes that I had worn for the longest time were the clothes that I had worn when I was a bigger size. I bought the clothes then because I liked them, and nothing had changed until I needed to get rid of them because they just were unrepairable at that point. it was only because I was seeing that reminder every day of how unhappy I had become with my life in a physical manifestation that had made me so upset and contributed to my unhealthy mental state, and also contributed to an unhealthy relationship with food, to the point where I was doing a cycle of binge eating and then starving myself. And that was not fun, because I love food. I love to eat. I love eating food. I love trying different foods. I love cooking food. I love cookbooks and trying out recipes. I love watching YouTubers going out to places and trying different foods in different countries. I love, mukbangs, and just like that virtual experience of eating with someone. I love going out to eat with someone and just catching up with them and sharing a meal. I love that so much. And for me personally, and this is why I love speaking so many different languages and learning different languages, for me personally, some of the most important things that bring people together are food and language, because people often get together to eat, and people often talk when they eat. So, and when that part of me had become damaged, where I didn't want any part of food, I didn't want to really do anything with it, I didn't want to touch it, and I was hurting myself just to try and lose the weight and go in an unhealthy path to try and get to the state that I am now, but it was in an unhealthy way. That was another sign that I needed to change, because I like to eat too bloody fucking much. I can't do this. No, if I have to bloody fucking calorie count and do a diet, it always bullshit. No, I need to find a different way, because I don't diet. I can't do it. And that's where I really saw most of my progress with my weight loss goals, was just repairing my relationship with food. So I stopped dieting, and then once I realized what my body actually needed, that's why I went vegan. I was like, oh fuck, I'm lactose intolerant. I can't have dairy damn near any other time. Cheese backs up my bowels like crazy, so I need to just cut that shit out for the most part. And most meats back me up too, so I gotta pretty much cut that shit out too. And eggs, well, can't. I throw up when I eat them, so throw them out. It's like, okay, might as well just stick to the vegan thing and just make my life easier. There we go. And then I noticed how much that really helped my body out. I found out what worked for me. And then I found out that once I got that going, and I found out the exercises that worked for me. I really like dancing, so I started getting into choreography. My friend Danny is huge into K-pop, so she got me down that rabbit hole. But then I really liked the dance routines for the groups, so I would practice a lot of the routines, particularly Monsta X and BTS. They have really, or Alexa, Monsta X in particular, and BTS and Alexa, their choreographies are just no joke. You want to damn near collapse on the floor and almost give yourself a seizure, which I did. Don't do that, especially when you're taking medications, such a thing. And then just going for walks and I figured out I really like calisthenics. I like running, so I would go for like short burst runs and stuff. And I like just being out in the world and putting on my music, just going for walks and then doing short running and jogging bursts and then dancing and all that stuff. And yoga. I used to do martial arts when I was younger, and I used to be really active when I was younger. So I'm just getting my body back in. And I used to go biking too. I used to have a bike, and I would just take my music and then go biking all around my neighborhood. I would bike miles and miles a day when I just needed to clear my mind and help myself feel better as a kid. And that helped. That really helped me. And then doing that, like working on my relationship with food, doing all that stuff, and just getting myself in like a happy state. And to think like all the things that I was doing over the past few years would get me to this point. I'm still not done. Like I said, I'm still not done. I'm just in quarantine right now. I have no idea what the bloody fuck I'm gonna do once I get out. You know, fingers crossed that everything goes well. I mean, we'll see. Well, this is day one. I just finished my lunch. Not gonna eat the jalapenos though. I thought I was feeling it, but not really. Or I'll save the waffle cake for later because I'm actually not that hungry. So at the end of these videos, I figured I would share, since I'm still learning Korean, and also since I'm trying to reconnect with my Filipino roots, and first learn Tagalog. If I can learn Ilocano, I would love to do that because you know, Ilocano never got passed down to me when I was younger. You know, the knowledge base that I had for Tagalog it faded a lot when I was growing up, so I can, you know, I can sort of kind of read it and I can sort of kind of understand it, but I can barely speak it. So I'm gonna try and do this thing at the end of my video as well. Do one word in Korean and one word in Tagalog. Today's word for Korean will be 침대, because I was sleeping. This is my bed right here. So 침대, Korean for bed, 침대, and then and it was very comfy. There's actually two, so one of them doesn't have anything on it. 둘, 침대, so two bed. For my breakfast, I was eating 이트로, egg. Alright, so I will see you in the next video, or maybe a room tour later. Alright, 안녕, 응가포.